This is Business Therapy, where we approach the human side of business and heal businesses from the inside out. I'm Diane Dye Hansen, management consultant, and with me is Christine Salvo, hypnotist, therapist, and certified mediator.
Hello.
So today on our episode, we are talking about something that a lot of people face as they become to know themselves. As people become to know themselves, they might start their careers out in one direction and pivot. And sometimes that pivot is not the easiest thing. Today we have with us Tracey. And Tracey, you did a really interesting business pivot. Where did you start and where are you now?
I started as an accountant, was that for about 30 years, and I am now a spiritual healer and author.
Wow. That is a huge change. So what prompted it?
Well, it was definitely little steps. I started doing different things. I loved working with people, so I tried some careers with that. And I got to be honest, it wasn't a straight, I made it to this spot. I backed up, I went forward a few steps, went back a few steps. And so I would say for anybody who's thinking about switching, just be open. Let yourself be pulled.
So accountancy is not necessarily known for its people-loving nature. So how were you when you started in accounting versus how you've transformed into who you are today?
You know, a lot of it was social back then. There were certain careers that were honestly good for women. I'm older, so there were careers that this is okay for you to be and this isn't. So part of it was that. Part of it was what my parents expected, my husband expected.
I'm interested to hear a little bit more about that. What are other careers that were okay? And accounting, by the way, as far as what I kind of know about you and your history, it also paid pretty good. So it wasn't just like this is a job you could do, but you had maybe not so many choices.
Yeah, my other choice was a teacher. I mean, those were very good careers that paid relatively well. So I chose between an accountant and a teacher. If I'd known how much I'd liked being a mother, I would have definitely chose being a teacher. And I also figured out I really loved working with people. And I was really influential on people. So it was like, it took me 30 years to get there, but I'm at a place now where I can work with people and help them and teach them.
How did you feel the change coming on?
You know, definitely when I was younger, all I was worried about was making a living, making a career, making a great life for my family. And then after my kids were born, I started seeing that I really needed to make the world better, different. And as an accountant, you really don't have an effect on the world. So I just little by little transitioned. Again, I went to human resources in my position that I had, and then eventually tried salesman because I thought, well, I could sell people stuff that they needed. And, you know, it just wasn't for me. And then eventually I went into owning my own business. And then I realized, don't really like working with employees so much. So I backed up, went back to accounting for a while, and then took this leap of finally realizing that I really want to help people. And so I went to counseling, and then from there to spiritual healing.
So that's where Tracey and I met. We met in grad school.
Yeah.
And she was on her way to be a therapist when we met. We met at a practicum.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. So what I'm hearing you say, though, is that it was not a straight line.
It was not.
It wasn't like I'm an accountant one day and now I'm a healer. It was very kind of staggered, like you looked at resources within your company first and then you started going outside. And what kind of skills did you need to kind of stay on track as you were going around in circles and all over? What emotional skills, what, business skills, what did the path look like?
You have to have some perseverance and some flexibility, just being open to saying, okay, wait a minute, that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. And being willing to step back, especially if you need income, step back, go back to your original career, try again, do some aptitudes tests, figure out what you were really good at, because I was really good at dealing with people, but not so good at selling things. So I stepped back and said, okay, wait a minute. And then little by little figured out what my niche was. And that's what I would tell anybody. And if you don't have any idea what you're good at, then take an aptitude test. They're free online. You can go to a college and get them done, whatever you want. And then you'll know what some of your strengths are.
That's really good. I've put some of my clients through StrengthsFinder 2.0 as well. And that is something that can be taken as assessment and living into your strengths. I imagine there was probably a feeling like, let's take sales, for example. Sales is a people position. You're definitely helping people. But what was it about sales that wasn't just right? And how did you know?
I think for me, I was selling them great things, but then I was actually a financial advisor. So I was selling stocks, and then when they lost, it was very hard. It was hard to watch people lose that. And it just didn't seem like, for me, again, I wanted to change the world. And helping people financially does change the world. But helping them emotionally, helping them heal those soul wounds that they have out there, it was so much different.
Yeah.
So for me, it just came little pieces at a time, and it took about 10 years to transition from an accountant to this.
Yeah, what you're talking about there is a concept called a guiding light. You may have heard of a guiding light, a lighthouse, in business, a tent pole idea. But basically, it's that one focus in which everything else can trickle down from. And yours, it seems, is I want to help people and I want to change the world. And if it's not in alignment with that, I don't feel quite there.
Absolutely.
So even Tracey, when you're talking about your journey kind of from accounting to going back to school, what was that like? And then what happened when you went back to school?
I started really small. I took one class and said, okay, I'm going to see, because this seems like the thing for me, and it seems like I really want to do this. So I took one class. I didn't jump all in. And then I went, okay. And then I took another class. And then after that, it was like, I want to do this. And so I jumped full-time into school. I quit my job. I was financially able to do that, which was wonderful. Quit my job and just went to school. But if you can't, just keep plugging away one class at a time.
Sure. And then what even happened? What was some self-discovery that happened for you when you were in school?
Just, I more and more realized I ended up not being a counselor, by the way, because I also know that I'm a free spirit and I'm very spiritual. So for me, the restriction of that profession didn't serve me. So I actually had to go into something where I could be my free spirit.
Which was what?
Spiritual healing, author. No one has any control over that. You really don't even have much regulation. And so to me, it was what I needed to do, because I need to be able to just take the person and just go with them. I can't be, I only got 50 minutes to do this with you. And I will stay with you as long as it takes.
Yeah, so you started developing your criteria of your non-negotiables. I help people, I change the world. I really don't want to do this in a restrictive, regulated format. I don't want my hands tied. So then it starts narrowing down. Now, was there anything that you did that had that alignment but still wasn't quite it?
Not really. Again, the counseling did, but again, it didn't have the criteria of being able to just freewheel, like be free-spirited. Yeah. It was close, and then I just tweaked it a little bit, and off I went.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting how our core values play into our decisions in life, whether they be career, whether that be the core values of a company. Core values really are drivers. And I think there's a lot of people driving around right now who, if I ask them, what are your core values? They would be like, my family? I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people. And most people forget to say myself.
And yeah, exactly.
It's like the last thing people tend to think of. I'll do one of these, a values assessment, and there's so often it's like, what about you? Do you value you, your time, your purpose, what you're here to do. And so often our lives just get so busy and distracting, and the demands are so many that it's really hard to connect with that, and not only connect with that, but actually take, I like calling it, the risk of being alive. And Tracey's a really great example of that. She took the risk of being alive. And as being an author, you can talk a little bit about what you've written about and what you've kind of found your purpose, because I think it's quite unique.
Yeah, it was very scary to take the step. I will go back to just, if you can't take the leap, just take little steps at a time. Get there. I ended up writing my book about death, helping people come to terms with death and to learn to live like they're dying. And so I lived that way. Like every day I get up and what do I do today, and what impact am I going to have on the world?
I love it. I love it. So you're really living into those values. So I'd like to challenge our listeners, when you have a moment to sit down with a pen and paper and really just draw out, what matters to me? What are my non-negotiables in life? And look where you may be just slightly out of alignment. Because what happens when we're slightly out of alignment with our core values is we start feeling stressed. We start feeling like, oh, my life's not rolling along. I'm feeling a little fake. I'm feeling like I'm out of place. It's that kind of shaky, like not sure quite where you are in the world type feeling that you can't quite put your finger on. Usually if you're feeling like that, that is a disalignment of core values. And that's when I talk to companies about company culture, that's what happens in companies as well, is they get so out of alignment with the reason why they do what they do in the first place, and the company just feels chaotic. So I love to know, like from the moment that you made the decision, kind of like that decision point, what happened? What was the impetus? What was the lead up to that decision point for you, Tracey?
Again, for me, it just kind of came in, but it would have been really nice to have had somebody say, hey, have you ever sat down and really said what is important to you? Because I had never written that out. And when you write it out, it really becomes very apparent that this is exactly what I need to do. And so I would go back to your writing it out. Make sure you have the list. Make sure you understand, because so few people that I work with really know what their core values are. They really never identified them. And I had never identified them. And then when I sat down, it was like, well, wait, I want this and this and this. And the career I'm in gives me not one of those. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, that chaotic feeling you feel, that feeling depressed that you talked about, absolutely, because you're not in alignment with what you really want to do in life.
Right.
So write it down. If you feel like you're not in alignment, figure out what your alignment is. Sometimes you don't even know. You haven't taken the time to really say, these are my values. This is what I live for.
Can you imagine, Tracey, when you were still in accounting and you hadn't quite made these leaps, thinking that you'd be writing books on helping people die?
Absolutely not. I was scared to death of death. In my book, I talk about that. That would absolutely make me shudder. And now it's just the most calm thing. And I know the beauty of it and what an amazing part of life it is. It's just like being birthed. We birth, we die.
Yeah. But you're able to see that both are beautiful, and you're able to share from this specific perspective that can really offer people some peace.
Right. And again, until you write down what you want to be in your life, until you find your purpose, you're like kind of flailing around like I was as an accountant. And yeah, I would have never imagined that my life would be this when I was 19 years old. No way.
Right.
So just keep your imagination going. Keep your passion going.
So taking the leap and having these different careers and knowing you, I know things that the listeners don't know, but you're actually about to take on another new venture into the wide open, another business, another version of yourself. So thinking of kind of like your businesses as past lives, what's all the knowledge that you could take from that and while you're going to move forward, even still evolving?
You know, that is a tough question. My accounting skills have always been a valuable source for me. They really have. So don't forget your roots.
Yep.
Because in all business, you have to financially have some savvy. And I'm going to go into farming of all things again, completely another leap in my life. And just being open and researching. I've had to do a lot of research for this particular venture, and just knowing if it's going to satisfy your purpose. And this particular thing will satisfy my purpose of helping the world. But keep to your core values.
Absolutely. And I love that realization that where you've been in the past has great value. That was a great point, Christine. Where you've been in the past has great value to where you are in your present. So it's not like, oh, career change, done with it, over, bye-bye, past life.
Yeah.
And it's all one life, and taking bits and pieces. I've had a similar genesis, is that I started out, I had a robust career in marketing and communications, but it was on the corporate side doing corporate marketing. So doing ads, doing copywriting, basically advertising. And what I found my disalignment with that is that not everybody who bought what I had to sell was necessarily benefiting from that. So it was very much, and I basically had a chunk of my career in the youth entertainment industry. And there's this great movie, if you haven't seen it, it's an old Edward Norton movie called Death to Smoochie. And they refer to children as wallets with pigtails. Yeah. And in the entertainment industry, it was very much, yes, I'm bringing, people joy. Yes, people love this. But if I just, put out the same episodes again and slap a keychain in it, all of a sudden I'm going to have 40,000 more units.
Right.
And that didn't resonate with my soul. I wanted something where I could roll into that would really benefit people at their core. Not just I'm selling you something, but I'm kind of selling you on yourself and your ability to communicate, to make things better for others. So now, whether I work in mental health or software or real estate or whatever, it's always with that guiding light. And so I absolutely agree, Tracey. It's it's that idea that, oh my gosh, I'm like, this gives me the money, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and now my soul yearns for more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that our listeners can really benefit from is, developing that deep listening.
Yeah. And one more thing before we kind of wrap up today. I really want to hit on failure. So many people don't take the small step or the big step because this thing called fear of failure gets in their way. Can you talk about that a little bit, Tracey?
Yeah, for me, it was, I definitely had those feelings when I started out. It was like, it's such a big step to take. And what if it doesn't work? Well, you know what? If it doesn't work, then you fall back, you reorganize, and you step forward again. I think there's very few people who can say, I made it the first time.
Great point.
They had a lot of steps to get where they were. So it's not a failure. Take what you learned from whatever it is. I started a business. I learned a lot from that business. I took that, I stepped back, and when I came forward with a new idea. And that's all I would tell people. It's not a failure. It's actually a learning lesson. So take it, step back if you have to, go back to your original career, start again.
So what about the family? So when you started, you were like, there were certain expectations for being a female and things that I could do in the family. So sometimes it's not even our own fear of failure. Sometimes it's the people in our lives that are like, don't take the step, don't do the thing because you might fail and I can't help you, or I'll feel powerless, or whatever. It's their own projection of their fears. Was the family always supportive when you were kind of like bouncing around, finding your way?
My father was pretty supportive most of my life. The other people in my life, not so much. But again, it comes down to when you write down your core values and you know that what's going to make your soul happy is this. And that's why, again, I would go back to what Diane said. Make sure you have a list. Make sure you know where you're going. Because if you have that list, nobody's fear is going to pull you off.
Yeah, people really love to install onto other people their doubts, their fears, their happiness, their emotions, because people yearn for a mirror. They yearn to see in you what they want to see in themselves. And it, like parents who are raising children, and the child is going to cheer, and mom all of a sudden is like, you're going to be the best cheerleader ever. We're going to put you through all these practices, all that. Soon the kid doesn't like cheerleading so much, but mom's like, no, you're going to be an amazing cheerleader.
I'm invested in your success.
And kids like, my soul doesn't want cheerleading. You know, sometimes you, even just looking at kids and watching how they fall in and out of things, and they flow, and they just kind of move through life and interests and all of that. And their no is very firm and their yes is very firm. I think there's a lot that we can learn from children.
I do too.
I do too.
And also, kind of wrapping up that family piece, it's okay for people to have doubt. It's usually coming from a place of love. They don't want to see you get hurt. They don't want to see you have financial ruin. They don't want to see you take the risk and fall on your face. But I'd say, do it anyway.
Yeah.
Do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, it's like that Bon Jovi song, it's your life, it's now or never. You ain't gonna live forever.
No.
Okay, I paraphrase
I can tell you that.
I paraphrase that.
Read Tracey's book. She'll remind you.
Yeah, you're going to die. You're dying today.
Tracey's book. Tracy, what is the name of your book, and how do people find it?
My book is The Joy in Dying, and it's written by Dr. T. Skye, and it's on Amazon.
Fantastic. So wrapping up today, just so many. I love how business therapy starts out, and we're talking about career changes, but there's so many levels deeper behind that. There's core values. There's listening to yourself. There's understanding that other people's fears might be projected on you, and your own fears, and how to work through those. And that I love this image. There's a really great image that's always floating around on the internet, that success is not a straight line. It's super squiggly. It's incredibly squiggly, and you gotta really, just strap in and ride that roller coaster.
And it changes over time. Let yourself change. Be flexible. It's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. As with any change, flexibility, being able to pivot, agile thinking. I mean, there's an entire discipline about agility and business agility now, and how to be in that ebb and flow of how business and life moves. And it's people know about it and people study it. It's just, we just have to apply it.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Tracey, for coming on Business Therapy. It was amazing having you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. This was amazing. Wonderful.
Fantastic. This was Business Therapy, healing businesses from the inside out, from the human perspective communication. I'm Diane Hansen.
I'm Christine.
And have a great morning.